Life, as it turns out, is just another sexually transmitted disease. And some people out there are looking to eradicate it. One of them was 25-year-old Guy Edward Bartkus, who's the perpetrator of what could be the largest bombing in the history of Southern California. I know that took a dark turn, but it was fun at first and we had some laughs. And I promise it might be fun again as we take a look at the ideology Bartkus was into and what it says about morality and the nature of humanity itself. Stick with me here as we examine the ins and outs of anti-natalism. I'm Kevin Lankus, and all I can think about right now is that John Cusack movie Better Off Dead, which in my honest opinion is a truly underappreciated classic that was just way ahead of its time. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 big floppy thumbs down, but we're gonna see what I give anti-natalism. Earlier in May, in Palm Springs, California, a bomb exploded in a car that sat in the parking lot of a fertility clinic. It damaged buildings, vehicles, and property within a 250-foot radius. Fortunately, the clinic came out with a statement to say that no one working inside was injured and none of the embryos were damaged. However, the bombing did injure 4 bystanders and sent the bomber himself to an early grave. 25-year-old Guy Edward Bartkus was identified as the culprit, and he's been linked to the anti-natalist ideology. He's posted in the subreddit and other online forums, and he's also written a manifesto that's being analyzed as we speak, and we should expect to see a bunch of anti-natalism show up in there. So what the heck is it? Well, at one time, the word anti-natalism began to sort of describe a state-sponsored method of decreasing population rates in some countries. And lots of that is a really sordid and horrifying history that includes things like forced sterilization. But after that, it made a hard turn into pop philosophy and had some help from climate change activists and environmentalists. One of those was something called the Voluntary Human Extinction movement that popped up in 1991. It has a website that's still very much stuck in the 90s, but it has this text displayed on the homepage, and I think it's very helpful in figuring out what they're all about. Phasing out the human species by voluntarily ceasing to breed will allow Earth's biosphere to return to good health. Crowded conditions and resource shortages will improve as we become less dense. They do have a hard time picturing some of us being less dense going forward. I don't think that's what they meant. And then 2 books came out in 2006 that redefined the concept of anti-natalism for the everyday person. One was called The Art of Guillotining Procreators, and the other was called Better Never to Have Been. Then in 2019, the anti-natalism movement got a huge push when a 27-year-old Indian man sued his parents for giving birth to him. This case launched a massive global conversation and thus popularized the term anti-natalism for more people around the world. And, all I have to say about that is watch out, mom and dad, because I'm coming for all your assets, including the half a can of Pringles in the closet and all your couch lint in the cushions. But you have to dig around for that because I don't want to accidentally run into JD Vance in there. And speaking directly of the couch fucker himself, Vance, like a lot of other members of today's extreme American right, has publicly shamed couples and women in particular and specifically for not having children. Where they claim it's a moral imperative to have kids so that it makes you feel more connected and engaged with society, anti-natalists believe that you're actually protecting your unborn children by not having them. And that to them is a form of mercy because you're not subjecting them to the cruelty and trauma of the world and its eventual horrible ending. So to sum this up to its most basic underlying tenet, anti-natalism is the belief that having children is morally wrong. Like the fertility clinic bomber who left a record of his beliefs behind his charred, decimated corpse, he's just extra crispy now. So the 2 of us have one thing in common at least, and that's that we're both air fryer enthusiasts. Bartkus called himself a pro-mortalist, which means that he's super into people dying. In a 30-minute recording recovered by authorities, it's alleged that he said, quote, "Basically, I'm anti-life, and IVF is like kind of the epitome of pro-life ideology." And this actually points to the fact that Bartkus may have been a proponent of a more extreme current of anti-natalism that's making the rounds in the darkened corners of the internet right now, something called elifism. And I'm not 100% sure how the elifists would pronounce that because I've really only seen it in writing and it only shows up in the online forums because maybe it's more like elephant, like a elifist, elifist. But the important thing that you need to know is that the word elif is the word life spelled backwards. Elifists are people who take the anti-natalist idea that no unborn children should exist and just apply that to all human beings. So Bartkus telling us that he's anti-life probably means that he was an elifist and actively looking to eliminate human life. And we seem to know a good amount about what this guy was thinking and planning, and more is going to come out over time. He was also trying to live stream the explosion, but somehow wasn't able to, so I guess we can at least be a little thankful for that. None of the media outlets I've seen so far are picking up on the underlying elifism. They're all choosing to say that the bomber expressed, quote, nihilistic ideations online. Now, nihilism is a good friend of the show, so we're going to insist that we separate out the harmful negativity of this confused and sad youngster because our nihilism is nothing at all like that. Our nihilism is positive, it's impactful, it's inspiring. There is no meaning except that which we make for ourselves. And here at LDSFG, the idea is that the reduction of suffering is plenty of meaning all on its own. And it's just and good to help other people because we're all stuck in this weird and funny place together. Bartkus went a different way, and his plan was to intentionally increase the suffering of others. And that's really the antithesis of the kind of positive nihilism this channel is all about. I think of it like that popular Douglas Adams quote, "In the beginning, the universe was created." This has made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move. To us, that's funny, and it smacks of a sort of existentialist absurdity that gives us a lot of fuel to do a lot of good. And people who genuinely feel as if all is lost and everything is hopeless are able to use that deep pain to justify violent acts against others. And that's a kind of logical fallacy that I'll never truly understand. Because to me, if everything is hopeless, then I think we should make sure that each and every one of us has the absolute time of our lives until the whole thing's over. I believe we should be good to people just for the sake of it. And I firmly believe that those who intentionally cause harm to others, and that includes violence or discrimination or just mild irritation at times, are truly the worst of us. And we stormed beaches across oceans to get people like that out of the equation. Let's not decide to go back on the promise of all that humanity now. It's my opinion that if we're going to lose the game altogether and fail to save the Earth from climate change or global conflict or whatever, that we go down with the ship. I'm in it until the very end because every passing moment is another chance to turn it all around. And I hope you're in it with me. Let's not throw up our hands and be anti-natalists. Let's do some good wherever we can in the world in the hopes that we can all have such a collective impact that it'll shake the primordial foundations of the earth and snap us all back into a collective humanity that will care for one another and make each other whole. To try to be good to each other because we're all we've got. Who else will, if not us? Ourselves. I'll see you in the next one.